So, good morning to all of you. I know it is a little bit late because the earlier class was, we were attending the earlier class. Uh, but now we can continue. In the last class, if all of you remember, we have we are discussing about the scarce entries, the number of examples, and then we have also tried to understand about one small class of series species, that is the holocephali, where we have discussed about one example, that's the chimera. So today onwards we will move on to the advanced class of these species, that is the superclass Osteichthyes or class Osteichthyes. Osteichthyes means fishes. Osti means bone, that is fishes with bone. The literary meaning of Osteichthyes is fishes with bone. And this class Osteichthyes is certainly an advanced class over the quadrichthyes that you have studied in the previous classes. So today, first we will try to understand some of the very important features of the class Osteichthyes, and then uh, we can start understanding few examples for this class. So some of the very key characters or general characters or very important characters for this class Osteichthyes is the skin with mucus gland. So these fishes are always slimy. Probably when you most of the fishes that you get here are bony fishes or Osteichthyes, and they are slippery in nature because there is a secretion of mucus on the skin. So then paired fins, especially uh, the pectoral fins and pelvic fins, are made up of rays and spines or only rays. But whereas the lobed fins lacking the rays and spines, where in lobed fin there is no rays and spines, but in paired fins like pectoral fin, pelvic fin, even on the dorsal fin, you can see rays and spines and sometimes only the rays also. Then the body is externally covered by the scales. What type of scales that they have? They have ctenoid, ganoid or cycloid scales. But in case of the chondrichthyes, you have seen it is the placoid scales. But here in Osteichthyes, it is the ctenoid, ganoid or cycloid scales. So this class includes both marine and freshwater species. Unlike the chondrichthyes, where a maximum number of species were marine there, but here both marine as well as the freshwater, you can see these bony fishes. Fertilization is external, that is the male and female have to release the egg and sperm, and releasing the egg is known as spawning, and they are oviparous, they will lay eggs, and fertilization takes place in the medium, that is in the water. No external ears, no eyelids, and internal skeleton is made up of bone, bony material. So that's why these fishes are popularly called as bony fishes also. And entire endoskeleton, in the endoskeleton you can see the bony element. So that's why you find it difficult to eat. You should be very careful while eating these fishes. Sometimes you may get your mouth, tongue or throat get punctured by the spines if you are careless. So the skeleton is made up of, and undoubtedly there is a lateral line also, and the heart is two chambered. I will come to that later. Two chambered heart. There is an operculum. Gills are not naked. Gill slits are covered by a muscular flap, what is known as operculum. Then the brain with large optic lobes. The power of olfaction is very high, and even the vision is also there. Not only the power of olfaction, but even the vision is also good, and cerebellum is large cerebellum. So here these are the in vertebrates. There is one group evolved into cartilaginous fishes, another evolved into bony fishes, as you can see. These bony fishes normally have swim bladders which is filled with air. This helps the body to balance between sinking and floating. Even these fishes, by adjusting the amount of air in the swim bladders, they can float or swim at different depths of the water column. These are more. There is a one thing which you should know. There are swim bladders for these bony fishes, but in some the swim bladders are missing in many species, and in those species this swim bladder has developed into very primitive lungs. For example, in lungfishes, where in addition to the gills, they have developed some very primitive lungs, which are nothing but the developed swim bladders. And the bony fishes have the operculum. You know, in case of the contractiles, if they have to undertake the respiration, they have to be continuously in motion. They have to swim continuously. But unlike the contractiles, these bony fishes have an operculum, which cover the gills, and uh, this helps the animal to breathe without, even when they are stationary, when they are not swimming also, they can undertake the respiration. I have told you they have two large optic lobes. The power of vision is also very well developed. Even the bony fishes can also see the color. They can distinguish the color and colored vision. Uh, and most of the fishes have smooth overlapping scales. And these scales may be of ganoid type, cycloid type, or ctenoid type. So this is how, see, this is the bony elements. And if you see the bony fish, these are the pectoral fins. See, this is the dorsal fin. There are and caudal fin, anal fin, and there is a lateral line, and there is an operculum which covers the gill here. To give an example, this is an Pacific Goliath gopher. It is an example of bony fish, and it can contain large amount of air inside in their chambers, and it can weigh up to 660 pounds. This is another example, because when I say the bony fishes, you may misunderstand that with the shape. So that's why, see, even bony fishes can be of different shapes. So this is the ocean sunfish. This is the largest bony fish in the world. This is the giant oarfish. This is the longest bony fish. It can reach even 11 meters in length. This is also a fish, that is giant oarfish. And another large bony fish is Atlantic blue marlin, is another large bony fish. Now, if you look into the anatomical and physiological features of this bony fishes, they have fins for swimming, and bony fishes will not be able to move at all without the fins. Their fins help in all activities. To get food, they are the only way to move, and many of the things are achieved because of these fins, either for getting the food or for swimming and all those things. Another uniqueness of this Osteichthyes is they all also have jaws for eating. They have a powerful jaw for eating. So see here, there are some, I have told you, there may be fins with spines and rays also. This is soft ray. Here everything is spiny and very hard. The circulatory system of the bony fishes consists of heart, blood, and blood vessels. And it's a closed system. Blood flows in a closed circulatory system. The Actually, the veins throughout the whole fish transport the blood to different parts uh, of the body, just like the human circulatory system. But it has only two chambers in the heart, one atrium and one ventricle. Only two chambers in the heart, but the veins uh, spread throughout the body and reaching each and every part of the body, supplying the blood. It has only one ventricle and one atrium. So that's why it's a single loop system. Uh, how the circulation happens? The fish heart pumps blood to the gills. In the gills, the blood gets oxygenated. Then it moves to the body. Supply oxygen, receive carbon dioxide, again comes back to heart. Then the heart pumps the deoxygenated blood to the gills and it becomes oxidized, then goes to the body. Uh, this is how the circulation. See here, what happens is this is the systemic circulation, and now uh, see, this is the ventricle and auricle, and blood flows from here, and in the gill capillaries it gets oxygenated. It gets oxygenated and then it flows to each and every part of the body, capillaries, and here in the systemic capillaries uh, they give out the oxygen and take the carbon dioxide and come to the atrium and then goes to the ventricle, pumps and then goes to the gill. This is so here the vasculatory system, which you can see here very clearly. The red colored one is the vein and blue one are the arteries. All of you know that the veins carry the deoxygenated blood and arteries supply the oxygenated blood. So it reaches each and every part of the body because of the capillaries. So the gaseous exchange is with the dissolved oxygen. The fish take the water to the mouth that contain the oxygen, and that oxygen goes to the oxygenated water, I should say, to the gills where the exchange of gases takes place. The carbon dioxide leaves the fish gill, and oxygen enters into the gills and then enters into the bloodstream. See, this is the gills, and when the water flows here, the dissolved oxygen goes into the gills and stale or what you call the carbon dioxide goes out. See here the oxygenated oxygen poor blood or deoxygenated blood flows like this, and in the gill lamellae they get oxygenated and oxygen rich blood flows out. Thorny fishes use their jaws and teeth to eat their food, and once they eat, it goes through throat, esophagus and into stomach. In the stomach, gastric juices, enzymes, acids, they start breaking down the food material. Then this semi-digested food goes to the intestine where the food is uh, completely digested and then it is absorbed. So this is the internal anatomy of this one. So two, and from there it goes to the things like, then it passes through the esophagus and then the stomach, pyloric, and then liver is there. Then even you can see the intestine. Can you make out the intestine? And intestine in the fishes is very interesting thing which I have to tell you. If the fish is carnivorous fish, the intestine is straight, short and wide in carnivorous fishes. But in herbivores and omnivores, intestine is long, coiled and narrow. Just by seeing the gut, you can decide whether the fish is a herbivore or a omnivore or a carnivore. Uh, Even the excretion of the waste, especially the nitrogenous waste, after the food being digested, uh, it is made its way through the intestine and then excreted. Uh, the undigested food goes out through the anus of the fish, and this is the elimination of waste material. But see, this is the from uh, this thing, the anus and the intestine, undigested food goes out. Then, in case of the excretion, takes place with the help of the kidney. So, these are some of the very important characteristic features of this uh, bony fishes or Osteichthyes. So, just to summarize, what are the important things? One is the bony endoskeleton, presence of operculum, movable jaws, then uh, presence of air bladder or primitive type of lungs in lungfishes. Then the scales are there, either ganoid, ctenoid, or uh, yeah, uh, scales, but not the cycloid scales. Now, after discussing all these important characters, let me move on to the study of some of the examples for this uh, bony fishes. First, let me take one good example, that is the Notopteris. Notopteris is a freshwater fish. Here I have included both freshwater as well as the marine fishes. And Notopteris is a very interesting fish, measuring about more than half a meter in length, and lives in freshwater. And this is the fish of our country, our region, we can say Southeast Asia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Burma, Nepal, Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam. They are having this. This Notopteris is found in this region. It is a very aggressive fish, even towards the members of its own species. Frequent quarreling among the members of the Notopteris is very common. But if there are other larger fishes, it is very timid. Aggressive towards its own species. They fight among themselves, but they become timid when they encounter the larger fishes. So these are the reasons which are marked with these yellow blocks. This is the distribution pattern or distribution of this fish, the Notopteris, in the freshwater, remember, in freshwater bodies. Even in Pakistan and almost in entire India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Bali, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, you can see these fishes. So this is how the Notopteris appears. The very peculiarity is the humped back. The back is humped, which you can clearly see. This is the uniqueness of this fish. So this is the juvenile of the Notopteris fish. This is the adult one, the first one, and the second one is the juvenile. This is also known as featherfin knife fish. This Notopteris is generally or traditionally or commercially, it is known as featherfin knife fish. It's flat and elongated with arched back, hump back, arched back. And another very interesting thing is it has a continuous fin along the underside, which has been formed by the fusion of caudal and anal fin. Probably see here, continuous fin here. So anal fin and caudal fin, they have fused together. So that's why on the underside it has a continuous sheet of fins. And even the dorsal fin is also very small. See, the dorsal fin, very small dorsal fin, compared to the body size or compared to any other fishes, the dorsal fin is very short. And adults are plain brown in color, whereas juveniles have dark bars, plain brown here, but here juvenile you can see some dark bars like this. They are common. And like the featherfin knife fish uh, is a very uh, found in general clear streams. If the water is clear, if it is not very turbid, in such situation, you can see this notopteris or featherfin knife fish, and even it can enter into the brackish water also. Even you can find them in the standing or sluggish waters. Standing or sluggish waters like lakes, food plains, canals, pond. Even sometimes it is noted that even it can take some localized lateral migrations. And wherever the tanks are there, the natural tanks in ಕೆರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ, common they are common in tanks throughout the greater parts of India. Almost all tanks they have, you can see larger tanks, and they feed on insects, fish, crustaceans, and sometimes even they can feed on the young roots of aquatic plants, but mostly it is carnivores. It feeds on insects, fish and other fishes and crustaceans, and it is very active during twilight and night, dawn, night and dusk. But when there is a bright light, they are mostly inactive. Usually when the dim light is there, and in the night. When the dim light will be there, either in the dawn or in the dusk and in the midnight. There will be dull light. And in the absence of light, night also they are very active. It colonizes and usually breeds during the rainy days. Another very important thing that you have seen, if there's a river or a stream which dries up during summer, during rainy season it will be found in the entire stretch of the streams or rivers, but when the dry season approaches, they immediately migrate back to the permanent water bodies in the soil, because even in seasonal streams also there will be some pools where the water remains even during the summer. The fish knows where the water is there even during the summer, and before the fall of the summer they go there and take shelter. The breeding can take place in the stagnant water or in running water, but it is in the rainy season. So now this is rainy season has started, and this is the breeding season for this notopteris. Eggs are laid in small clumps. What it does is, few eggs are tied together in small clumps and they are put on some submerged vegetation. A female measuring 21 to 25 centimeters can lay about 1200 to 3000 eggs. Yeah. When it comes to the laying of eggs, here I would like to mention one thing. I have already told you, in case of the bony fishes, the fertilization is external. Any organism which go for external fertilization produces more number of eggs. Generally, the organism which go for internal fertilization, they produce less number of eggs. So here you can see this fish being a bony fish, it goes for external fertilization, and the number of eggs laid are 1200 to 3000 eggs. Why it's so? It is an adaptation in course of evolution for the better perpetuation. In the sense, the organisms which are going for external fertilization, they produce large number of eggs for the very simple reason that they know that survival in the external environment is very, very difficult. Even if they lay 3000 eggs, what can happen to their eggs? Only God knows. Many of the eggs may be eaten by other predators. Then many of the eggs may not get fertilized, because during the same, when this female release the eggs, the male has to release the sperm, and the egg and sperm should come in contact. Then only they will be able to undertake the reproduction. So that's why the female releases large number of eggs. Even if few eggs survive and get fertilized, that's enough for them. So that's why, in order to ensure the perpetuation, in order to ensure the continuity of life, this or any organism, including these fishes, which are going for external fertilization, lays more number of eggs, at least few of them will survive. This fish is an important food fish. People eat both in fresh condition, or many dry this fish and eat it. This has some relevance in ethnozoology, in the sense it has some medicinal properties. It has been said. Soups made from this fish is reported to be given to people with measles. Measles is a disease, you may be knowing, where on the body there will be some blisters comes up, like chicken pox. Chicken pox ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಸಿಡುಬು, ಅದರಾಗೇನೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದ್ದು. That's the people who are suffering from this measles are given the soup of this fish, and it has a very high economic importance in the South and Southeast Asia, to Borneo, Sumatra, and it is caught. Even nowadays, the peoples have started cultivating this fish also in pisciculture. This fish can go up to 24 inches or 60 centimeters in the wild. But if you cultivate that, if you go for the fish culture, specimens would go larger than 12 inches or 30 centimeters, or you don't allow them by the time you harvest it. This featherfin knife fish is a carnivore. Mostly their diet consists of insects, fish and crustaceans, though there are some fishes can eat the tender roots of the aquatic plants. So this is this is another photograph of this Notopters. So it's a freshwater fish. Then another example for this bony fish is the eels. In the very beginning, I would like to make clear that many times, many people, the eels look like a snake. Remember, it looks like a snake. So that's why it's hard to believe that it's a fish. When you see the photograph, probably you can understand it. Because these eel fishes have a long snake-like body. And even the fins are not visible. Many species, the dorsal fin and pelvic fin appear, or they have merged together with the tail fin. So that's why the fins are also not visible separately, because the pelvic fins, dorsal fins and anal fins, they merge together with the tail fin. As a result, instead of fin, you can see a fin fringe, a continuous fin fringe on the body, on both the dorsal side as well as on the ventral side. And most of the eels have very small gill openings. Uh, in fact, there will be a single gill slit at the throat, only a single gill slit, very small opening. Eels vary in size, but the average size of most of the species is from 12 to 36 inches, that is 3 to 90 centimeters is the general uh, length of these eels. And in home aquarium you cannot keep them, only juveniles you can keep. uh, the adults become too large. The lifespan of these eels also varies depending upon the individual species. These eel fishes in their native region, it is considered as a good tasting food, but compared to other fishes, generally people don't like this fish, many of these fish, eel fishes. An example is Anguilla. It's a genus in the eels. True eels are elongated fishes ranging from length of 5 centimeters, and there are certain examples. In the last slide I have told you it is an average length 12, 10, 30 to 9. Most of the species average size is 30 to 90, but there are exceptions. See, there are eel fishes which are measuring only 5 centimeters, and in one jawed eel, that is Monognathus genus, it measures 3.75 meters, about 12.3 feet, and in that is found in the area what you call giant moray. They possess no pelvic fins, and many species lack pectoral fins also. Dorsal and anal fins are fused with the caudal fin, tail fin, to form a single ribbon. It looks like a ribbon running along the length of the animal. Most of the eels are found in the shallow waters. You hardly find in the water, but most of the time they are found in the they hide themselves in the cracks, crevices, or on the bottom layer of the ocean also. Sometimes in the holes. These holes are called as eel pits. The native people know to identify the eel pits. They open the eel pit and catch the fish. Only the members of this Anguillidae family, they regularly inhabit the fresh water. But the speciality of these fish is they can survive both in fresh water and marine water. They return to the sea for breeding. They spend most of their life in the fresh water, but when the time comes from breeding, they return to the sea. Even there are some eels which are found at the depth of 4,000 meters. Most of these eel fishes are active swimmers. See, this is how. See, there is no separate fin. All fins are fused together to forming a fin fringe, and it looks like a snake. That's why I put. Just to understand the life of these eels. Eels begin their life as a flat, transparent larva. This flat, transparent larva of eel is called as leptocephali, and that is in the ocean, in the marine water. This eel larva cannot swim. Actually, they drift in the surface water of the sea, feeding on marine snow. What do you mean by marine snow? The small particles which float on the water, marine water, small particles, that is known as marine snow. This leptocephaly or eel larva grows by eating this marine snow, then metamorphoses into glass eel, perfectly transparent. So that's why the name glass eel. Then glass eels metamorphose into elvers, and finally these elvers metamorphose and reach the adult habitat. Adult habitat is the river. And even this anguilla species of eel, it's a snake-like. It's a catadromous fish. That is, for breeding, it moves from freshwater to marine water. Freshwater to marine water, and they can reach, in exceptional cases, about 1.5 meters. And generally, it is rarely more than 1 meter. Eels and eel-like fishes are mostly they are carnivorous fishes. And if you want to catch the eels, you have to hunt only during the evening or dark or dusk. And they mainly get active during the evening or after dark. And they are mostly bottom feeders. What they eat is live food such as small crustaceans, mosquito larvae, worms, and other species. Even there are some eels like spiny eels and freshwater eels, they eat dead bodies also, carrionators. Even many of them have adapted eating freeze-dried or frozen proteins such as tubifex and bloodworms. They don't need much food. Suppose if you keep them in aquarium, you have to feed them twice in a week. Eating only once every 2 or 3 weeks is common in case of the eels. There's also one more fish, eel fish, that is popularly known as long-finned eelfish. This long-finned eelfish has well-developed pectoral fin and a broad head and large mouth with fleshy lips. There are long-finned eels as well as short-finned eels also. You can distinguish them based on the size length of the dorsal fin. The two species also have different coloration, and usually most of the eel fishes are olive or brown, and there will be olive or brown blotches on that one. Another fish, that the landlocked long-fin eel. And landlocked long-fin eels, they cannot go to the return to the sea because physical barriers, because it is not found in the rivers, usually found in tanks or some lakes where they have no connection with the sea. There is a physical barrier. They can grow even up to 3 meters in length and weigh up to 22 kg. Males are smaller than the females. See, these are the photographs of the eels. The second photograph here you can see, that's why I have told you in the very beginning, one may get confused the eels for snakes. They look like snakes. These eels are very hardy fishes, remember. They can tolerate lot of environmental fluctuations. Adapt to most, even in most of the aquarium conditions also. Some of these, even they are bottom dwellers. But it has also been noted that many of the species are able to breathe air at the surface directly from the atmosphere. Though there is a gill, even they can undertake Not only the dissolved oxygen, even they can make use of the atmospheric oxygen also. Um, some of the eels are great jumpers. They can jump in water body. Most of them are excellent escape artists. They can escape. Their body is very slippery, getting through any available. And even if a small hole is there, and they can come out. Even in aquarium, and if you keep the eels, be cautious to put the lid properly. Otherwise, if there's a small hole is there, they can escape. Uh, they are both jumpers and able to breathe air. Even there are some eels known to cross great distance on land. There are records that eel fishers have moved from one river to another river, crossing the land bridge. Because even in the atmosphere, in the air also, in the land also, they can get the oxygen from the atmosphere because they can breathe. So they can. There are many reports. They have crossed from one stream to another stream by traveling through the land bridges or from one river to another river. Eels, even in natural habitat also, they hide in caves or holes, uh, and they need plenty of space to swim. Even some of them dig their own burrows. For example, spiny eel, they dig their burrow in the substrate. Uh, but the substrate should be soft. For this is because in the eels the scales are not visible externally. Though there are scales, they are embedded within the skin. So that's why the eels appear naked. It is so that's the reason they need soft substrate such as fine sand or peat. Uh, so the eels juveniles, if you keep them together, they become quarrelsome if they are overcrowded in the aquarium, and they become aggressive and solitary predator as adult, and will eat the smaller and slow moving eels also. The long-finned eel is known for its remarkable migration to sea to breed. The adult long-finned eel swim downstream to sea, and then migrate to their spawning ground near the Caledonia in Pacific Ocean. And female eel can have millions of eggs in these ovaries. And one thing, after laying the eggs, these eels die. Then the eggs get fertilized by the sperms released by the male fish. Then eggs hatch and develop into leptocephali, which may take years. Then uh, leptocephali, and then they return to the streams in eastern Australia from where their parents have migrated. Adult fish, eelfish has migrated from the streams of eastern Australia and goes to New Caledonia area of the ocean. There it lay eggs and die. But the eggs develop into leptocephali and goes back and return back to the same stream of eastern Australia from where their parents have migrated. Young eels then swim upstream and they spend number of years in maturing. The maturation of the eels takes place, requires more number of years compared to any other things. And maturation takes place in the fresh water. This is the long-finned eel, which undertakes long migration. See, So this is the beauty of these eels. Just I want to know whether I can take up the another example now or next class ಇದೆಯಾ? ಹಲೋ, ಎಸ್ ಹೇಳಿ, ಯಾರಾದರೂ? ಯಾವುದು? ಯಾವ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇದೆ? ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಂಟೆಗೆ? 11? 11:40 ಅಲ್ವಾ? Then I will complete this because I may take another 5 minutes. I can take up one more example. So this another example is the Osteichthyes, which all of you are familiar and very interesting fish. That is known as flying fish. This is moderately elongated and compressed body where the body is covered by cycloid scales. Very beautiful fish. If you look from the top, it looks bluish, belly side it is silvery, and careful observation of the pectoral fin shows a black spots on it. It has wide mouth with teeth. The very speciality is the pectoral fins are enormously elongated, like a wing-like structure. So that's why the name flying fish. The pectoral fins are very large, enormously elongated to form a wing-like structure, and it helps the fish in its gliding in the air. See how these pectoral fins are enormously enlarged. So with the help of which the fish can glide in the air. Hence the name flying fish. Even it can glide a distance even up to 400 meters it can cover. Pectoral fins are enormously enlarged, but dorsal and anal fins are short. Tail is hypobatic tail. Hypobatic tail is a condition where ventral lobe of the fin is large. So out of this, one lobe, ventral lobe is large and the dorsal lobe is small. The fish is having air bladder. Undoubtedly oviparous, lays eggs, and it feeds on prawns, young fishes and their eggs. See, you can see. See here it is very clearly seen. The ventral lobe is very long, the dorsal lobe is short. See the enormously grown pectoral fin helps the fish to glide in the air. So it's a widespread in tropical and subtropical zones of all oceans. Everywhere it is there, including the Western Mediterranean Sea, part of Caribbean Sea. Probably it is absent in inland areas of Southeastern Asia. Otherwise, it is seen in all these Eastern Pacific, Mexico to Central Chile, also in Galapagos and Hawaiian Islands, Western Pacific, Japan, Australia, Philippines. So these are the areas where marked with a red line. That is the area where you can see these Osteichthyes or flying fish. So no dorsal spine, only dorsal fin has soft rays which may be 12 to 15. In the anal fin also there is no spines, only soft rays 12 to 40. In the vertebral column there are 43 to 46 vertebrae. Body is dark but iridescent blue from above and silvery white below. Pectoral fins, caudal fins are greyish and not pigmented. See, this is one cut fin of this. Hypobatic tail, you can see the dorsal lobe is short, ventral lobe is long. Mostly this occurs in the surface water, both near and far from the coast. Form schools. What do you mean by schools? The groups of fishes are known as schools. And they are capable of leaping out of the water and glide. They even prey upon swordfish, tuna, and other large pelagic fishes. So, actually, this fish shows passive flight. So, if you keep it on the table and ask it to fly, it will not be able to. It will not be able to fly. I mean, table in the sense even in the water body also. So, for that, what it does is it can swim with very high speed. It comes to the surface, swim with very high speed, just lift its snout out of the water. Because of the speed, it is just pushed out of the water. And when it comes out of the water in air, it spreads its pectoral fins. So that the pectoral fins function as a parachute. And they can glide in air with the help of these extended pectoral fins, which function like a parachute in the air and even cover up to 400 meters. Okay, this is what I wanted to discuss for the day, and we will continue